Hello and welcome to VOP this morning. I'm Esther Wachuku. It is quite a beautiful day, isn't it? Well, we're not merging with other political parties, but there are discussions. Now, if you're wondering who said that and to whom, I should like to tell you those words came from the spokesman of the Labour Party on the possibility of the party forming some sort of alliance with other parties in the event of a rerun of the presidential vote. Plus, UK police charge Diezani Alison Madueke with bribery. Again, the question here might well be who took what from whom? These are the two topics of interest on the midweek episode of VOP this morning. In the meantime, you may like to click on the like button, subscribe to our page. It's on YouTube, Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. And you do know, if you're joining us for the first time, well, we'll be starting off with some national dailies and exactly what is on the front page. Interestingly, I will not be doing this alone. I have Cyril Abaku right here in the studio. He is our in-house analyst. Cyril, good morning.
Good morning, Esther.
You look bright. I like that.
It's a midweek though.
Is it? Okay. First up, we'll be starting off with the Punch newspaper. All right. And on the front page, it says, anger as state's warehouse rise delay palliative sharing. Cyril, did you see how they were sharing it in Lagos? How everyone was stretching their hands. Give me, give me, give me. Okay, so we also have as a rider, Borno distributes rice to 400,000 households. Workers lament hunger, demand relief. And Labour insists 5 billion naira not enough. Gombe promises workers 10,000 naira. Anambra also 12,000 naira. These are the riders on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Okay, so we have above the masthead, Niger, AU plans fresh sanctions. Abdusalami warns against war. You see that story on page 7 on the front page of the Punch newspaper. And beside that particular headline, there is a federal government, states, local government share 966 billion naira July revenue. And that is on page 18 on the Punch newspaper. Also, we have EFCC mom as Diezani faces bribery charge in the UK. Wow, we're not done with Diezani Alison Madueke's story. Then we have on the bottom page, Naira slump. Manufacturers' raw material imports hit 8 trillion naira. You'll see that on page 17 on the Punch newspaper. Associates mourn slain senators' aide, demand killer soldiers' arrest. That story is on page 4 and 5 on the Punch newspaper. And we also have, beside that headline, Ogun doctors plan September 1 strike over unpaid allowance. That story is on page 27 on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Cyril, it's quite interesting to see these headlines. It is surprising that there is anger as you know, as states warehouse delay palliative sharing.
Well, it was going to get to this, and it could even get worse if we're not careful. Because the fact is that when we saw those videos yesterday, I was wondering, is this Nigeria in 2023? Is this what we've become? Are we getting poorer? Are we getting more bereft of ideas? Are we lacking initiative more and more? Is this the future of our country? Children growing up in this sort of environment, what's the kind of orientation and moral fiber that is going to constitute their their makeup? Is this who we are? When the world sees us behaving this way, we are not at war. We are not. That's not an IDP camp where a society, the so-called Giant of Africa, a country planning to go and restore democracy in Niger. Is democracy an end in itself or a means to an end? Is a means to an end. If this is how Nigeria is practicing democracy, people are living as in the social order of Nigeria is after 23 years of democracy. What moral right do we now have to go and tell Niger that the people in that stage should live? If you can't provide, if democracy does not make life better, what is the credential it wants to show? What is the thing that's so good about it? So this is the question. Because ideally, democracy means people should be free and independent and empowered and able and capable to fend for themselves. This distribution of rice and beans is not it's not long term
at all.
It was when, look, the foolishness of this economics is this. It's like saying if they give 5 billion naira to Lagos, then we are not up to 5 billion in Lagos. We're not even up to 100 million. Distribute 1 million naira to everybody in Lagos so that we will all be rich. Is that kind of economics? We used to think of them, no, as children, we say if they give everybody now 10 million naira, all of us will be wealthy after Nigeria has all the money. Buhari began it by saying that they will distribute Abacha's loot to the poor. It was senseless.
And up to now, we've not seen the distribution of that. It wasn't even possible.
At the point, they said it was trader money, it was this and that. What have they done with all those monies? What have come out of them?
The problem, Sarah, is that we don't have monitoring and we don't have government being accountable for processes like this.
It is that we have you are even calling it a process. That's to dignify. It's not a it is not. It's plain corruption. It's not a process. Can you tell me what you gave to whom from that place, and tell us and use that to say this was what we brought and therefore we gave 70 persons 8 tons. You can't do record keeping from that kind of scenario, and you can't tell me it wasn't deliberate. We said this thing the other time. Go and check people who have taken contracts. Who supplied the nylon bag? Who supplied the cups they used to scoop the rice? Who supplied? Because what government said was that the governments are going to buy 100 tons of rice. Who supplied them? It means that, so of course there was a go-between. What then happened to federal government's farms in a lot and all those places? The rice farms, those very good rice farms we had in the past. And if they are still there, what happened to them?
Even the one in River State too.
What happened to them? Where are they? Why is it that Lagos government has a rice mill in and give it? And I mean, this came under Governor Sanwo-Olu. The problem that we have today with the economy didn't come from the PDP. It came from APC to APC. Why didn't they sit down to see this is coming and say, okay, before we commercialize, why don't we look at the welfare side of things? It was Lake Rice. Later it was now is the Immortal Rice Farm. How many common people can go and buy rice in those places?
That's right.
It means government is no longer living for the people. It's not, the people are not living for the government. You can't give a man handouts and hope that one day he will stand on his own. He cannot stand on his feet. Even the Yoruba have been saying that instead of giving a man fish, you teach him
how to fish.
So we're in a very bad place. And nobody is pointing us to the light. Nobody is telling us from here, this is where we go.
There.
Nobody is saying that.
How
can you say you are giving? And they are going to dole more money out to governors on the border with Niger. Places where nobody knows who is who.
All right, so
you will end up pulling your troops to Niger and fund the war and fund the defense of the war. That's what's going on.
Let's go to the National Daily so we can cover some major stories here. Next up is the Nation newspaper, which has as its major headline, "New twist in Niger crisis as Russian mercenaries arrive." Cyril, I'm sure you would really want to talk about this. Wagner Group in Mali with arms ammunition. Abdul Salami raises dialogue, hopes breeds Tinubu. We also have above the masthead on the front page of the Nation newspaper, government to curb rising inflation with cuts in money supply. That story is on page 2. And federal government, states council share 966.1 billion naira as July allocation. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And that statement was made by Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy as well. Also, we have beside that, Stock Exchange joins bid to boost Forex availability. APC declares Arabashala Group's caucus as contraption. That story is on page 5 and page 2 on the front page of the Nation newspaper. So, Cyril, let me quickly ask you this. The new twist in Niger crisis, apparently Burkina Faso and as well as Mali, they have told ECOWAS that you coming to invade Niger would not be a walk in the park. And now Niger too is trying to get its military support and ammunition might from the Wagner Group. So what does this say actually for ECOWAS as a body?
It doesn't say a new thing. We've said, look, the Wagner people coming to Niger, wherever, is simply a matter of a young man and a lady planning to get married. And you've heard, but we wait until they print the invitation card.
Okay.
What you're seeing is like the invitation card has been printed. So anybody who sees it now knows formally that something is going to happen. But all they were maybe close friends and associates always knew what was up. Look, it is up to ECOWAS and the AU. Take my word for it, Esther. If the coup in Niger is allowed to stand, Nigeria stands the risk of becoming the last democracy in West Africa.
That's terrible.
No, but it's the plain truth. It is clear for anybody to see. The clouds are very full. The atmosphere is overcast and hanging. It can drop anytime. So anybody who is pretending not to see what is going on in Niger is purely on his own. The people who are saying war is not the option, I don't know. It's either they are not aware of what is really underlying what is going on, or they found nothing to lose if democracy fell anyway. So they will take the popular side and say, don't go to war. My contention is the junta must be booted out. The junta must leave. Even if it came to the use of arms, they have to go. They have no justification, no legitimation to oust an elected government in Niger. He, as a military commander, if you disagree with your boss, we see it happen in other parts of the world, you give him your counsel and you walk away. For them to now become, take over government and say they want power over in 3 years time and so on, it's all a joke. Bazoum is alive. Why can't they hand power back to Bazoum? The reality is that West Africa has turned into a tough war, a proxy theater of war between one power block and another power block. Anybody who is pretending not to know what is going on is up to him. But the reality is that for us as West Africans, our interest and priority is democracy. And in the name of so first of all, let's ask the question: is democracy worth defending? If it is not,
especially in West Africa,
if it is not, then allow the junta stand. After all, they've taken power. But if you feel it is what if you feel it is worth defending, go to Niger, because the fact is, if it happened in Guinea-Bissau, it happened in Mali, it happened in Burkina Faso, it happened in Niger, and it has taken the same trend. The soldiers, the one in Burkina Faso, they staged a coup through WhatsApp and Signal.
Can you imagine?
Then it took them a couple of weeks and months. They planned everything. They moved on the presidency, on the president. They booted him out. Then what did they do? Russian sympathizers, so-called Russian sympathizers, came out on the streets, waved Russian flags, supporting the regime. The same thing has happened in Niger. Attack the support Russia, wave Russian flags, attack the French embassy. We've seen it happen in Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso. And somebody says it's not and everything is okay. I sincerely could also look away. But the fact is, as an analyst in the studio, I can tell you these are the facts. Anybody who wants to do anything should thoroughly be minded of what is going on. Whether it is the West versus the East is another matter. We have a democracy to defend. That is the issue. Otherwise, Esther, in all sincerity, how do you see the clouds gathering on your neighbor's roof and rain is pouring and you say it won't come near, it won't come on your doors?
That's true.
I celebrate your confidence, but I don't envy it, because I know that confidence that you're exuding does not seem to come from wisdom.
But what should the ECOWAS do? Since you have Mali, you have Burkina Faso, you have Niger now together, they have combined forces, military might, and they're telling ECOWAS that any force, any impending force, definitely, or any form of intimidation will be reciprocated. Now the question is, a lot of northerners are asking the federal government not to do anything volatile, because they have intermarried with a lot of Nigerians. In fact, there are some Nigerians in top government positions that you cannot decipher if they're Nigerians or Nigerians. So the question now is, if ECOWAS needs to preserve democracy in Niger, considering the volatility of Niger and the proximity rather, and the volatility of the crisis in there, with the proximity with ours, what should they do in such a way that both nations wouldn't go into war?
You are not a leader. You are a leader to hear from from all sides, but you're not a leader to necessarily do what everybody says. This is the time when the president's leadership is called into question. Going to Niger is not necessarily even to oust the junta. The end game is this, and let me say it very clearly. Right. The end game is to essentially counteract the coup. So if the Wagner people, Niger, Burkina Faso, and all the coup elements in West Africa converge on that battle, you've successfully distracted them to halt the move of coups.
Okay.
Create a stalemate. That's the goal. If you cannot house the junta, go there and create a stalemate, so that from there they won't move. They won't move beyond the Niger. They've taken out the landlord countries.
Yes.
Now they wanted to come to the ones on the coast. They begin with Sierra Leone before they were stopped. Somebody has a cartography, okay, of how to take over West Africa. First, take the countries that are not on the coast, the ones that are purely on land, Burkina Faso, and they've succeeded.
You've succeeded.
And somebody is telling me that it is not what. Let me tell you something. If democracy was, you see now that they say we are brothers, because whether it is Bazoum or Chiani, as far as they're concerned, they are they, them are them. It is they. So whether democracy is taking a backseat or not, power is still with, as it were, with them. The question is, if this were to happen elsewhere, who will power go to? Maybe the people who have the answer to that question could care less whether democracy failed or not. Fell or not. So we need to understand who is saying what. My take again is that what is happening in Africa in West Africa is too close for comfort. For us to sit back and say, let me tell you, if these people succeed and retain power in Niger, it will end there. Definitely. And Niger shares boundary with Nigeria. Anybody who cannot dot, who cannot fill in these blank spaces, I leave the person to
with the kind of insecurity we're also going through here. It's also, you're right, Cyril, it's dangerous. Now we have just let's look at the Daily Trust, because we need to move into the next segment of the program. Now, apparently on Daily Trust, the major headline there is Tinubu's 48 ministers to gulp 8.6 billion naira in 4 years. We also have about that, AU suspends Niger as ECOWAS delegation as shows of diplomacy. UK reduces tariff on 3,000 Nigerian products. We also have pilot of crashed NAF jet buried in Zaria. And then on the bottom page, on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning, insecurity, Defense Minister demands timeline from service chiefs. You can't frustrate me, Umahi tells civil servants. Okay. British police arraign Adezani October 2 over bribery, and a father kills son, burns caps over cassava in Akwa Ibom. That is a very unfortunate story. Cyril, very quickly, before we wrap up with this segment, let's look at Adezani Alice Madueke. Apparently, London has charged Adezani with bribe taking and fraud. One would think with what transpired in Nigeria, that when she went there, as a way of as a means to escape the judicial investigations or whatever or whatnot here, that she would lay low, protect herself, and be reasonable. Now we have her being charged with about £100,000 in cash, and then there is the chauffeur-driven cars, flights on private jets, luxury holidays for her family, and of course the use of multiple London properties from oil and gas contractors, including other gratifications.
For what it is worth, let me just say this and wrap. The fact is, it's even a shame that this whole design thing has lasted for this long without any serious headway. The EFCC has literally just avoided the matter for fear that they won't be able to do a good job. That much Mr. Magu demonstrated over and again. But I mean, and again after all these years, bribery. So it's a good thing that on October 2 should appear in court at the Westminster Magistrates Court to, so the case will, and it will be a good thing. What Nigeria couldn't do, even in the case of Ibori, the UK did it for us, and now again, designing what Nigeria couldn't do. So it means we need to look at how we do our criminal justice administration. That's one. True. Then the second thing, Esther, I don't care what allegations anybody has against designing. Nobody is going to open the books against Buhari, because I can assure you that theft 100-folds over took place. All they talk about Jonathan and Dasuki, $2.1 billion. What did it come to? There was no evidence to back up those claims. It was all propaganda. Believe me, it was propaganda. Because there was no time to charge anybody, person or persons, collectively or separately, to the tune of that money that they said. Because, I mean, for them to come up with the figure, it means they saw the evidence. So where is the people? Where are the people that you took to court? Olusamide 400 million naira. I don't know where that one ended. Dasuki, the court of that time said, free this man. They kept him behind bars for no reason. The same way that now they've done with Emefiele. If separate vendetta from criminal justice. If people stole public funds, take them to court and prosecute them. 30 count charge, 40 count charge, things you can't even prove in court. Now, this is just bribery, and the woman is going to, Nigerians will be happy that it was in the UK that she was eventually
And she'll definitely
because they
appear
know
in
that their
courts.
country is well. But the point is, somebody needs to summon the courage to check what happened under the Buhari administration, because the gigantic scale of theft and larceny that took place perhaps has now happened in the east of our country and even in Africa.
You saw what JP Morgan eventually disclosed in the National Reserves. I think that explains it all. All right, Sarah Bako, thank you so much for being here on the front pages, analyzing the front pages. You just finished listening to the front page right here on VOP this morning. Up next, the Labour Party says they are in talks with other parties but won't merge. So, what is on the cards? Let's talk about that in a jiffy.